Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, here in the United States of America, and good afternoon or good evening to those who are joining from Liberia, West Africa, or other countries throughout the world. We are delighted you could be with us today. I have the honor and pleasure of serving as president and board chair of the University Consortium for Liberia, and as the honorary consul general of the Republic of Liberia for the past 11 years. And I have the honor to also serve as our host for today. My name is Cynthia Blanford, and we welcome you. We're so excited today to welcome you to the second Connect Africa webinar series, Winning in Education During COVID-19, Liberia's e-learning transformation, and Liberian Student Success Stories panel discussion. This webinar is being hosted today in collaboration with the University Consortium for Liberia and the Liberian Consulate in Georgia. I want to appreciate our sponsors, Global Strategies for Good LLC, J Lane Media, Tricon Film, One Motherland Group, and Simply Liberia for their support today. We also want to say a special thanks to the Webinar Planning Committee, along with our University Consortium for Liberia board members. Thank you for your leadership and your support. I also wish to acknowledge with thanks and appreciation to His Excellency, George S.W. Patton Sr., Liberia's ambassador to the USA in Washington, D.C., who will be joining us from Monrovia, Liberia. You are most welcome, sir. We have such a great panel today with us, a distinguished high panel, including Reverend Dr. Julius S. Nelson Jr., President of the University of Liberia, calling in from Monrovia. You're most welcome. Dr. George T. French Jr., President, Clark Atlanta University. You're most welcome. Dr. Susan Ogletree, Director, Center for Evaluation and Research Services, Georgia State University. You're welcome. Dr. Michael L. Bass, Professor, Sam Nunn School of International Affairs and School of Interactive Computing, Georgia Tech. And my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Lely Mapayan, Executive Director, Wellesley Center for Women. Welcome to all of you, the distinguished panelists. Please let me also welcome our UCL scholars, our distinguished scholars, Joshua Kula, Sadia Beslow, Astu Wise, Safatu Bari, and I think that is our panel for today for our students. Ladies and gentlemen, the goal of this Connect Liberia Africa webinar series today is to help identify new and innovative ways to collaborate and identify how the University Consortium for Liberia and the broader community can help buttress Liberia's efforts for enhanced and improved teaching and learning in this current and post-COVID environment through e-learning and other technology strategies. According to UNESCO, across the African continent, an estimated 297 million children have been affected by school closures as a result of this pandemic. It would be most unfortunate if we did not use this COVID-19 pandemic to help build a new community of teachers, learners, innovators, entrepreneurs, and think tanks to help address the inequities that poor and underserved communities are facing. The timing is right for thought leaders, educators, funders, investors, and others to step up to take on a new leadership role. As I begin to conclude my remarks, I wanted to make a statement about the University Consortium for Liberia. For the past 11 years, the UCL, whose purpose is to provide brighter futures through education and understanding, we have been collaborating with our institutional partners to help strengthen Liberia's educational system. That would include study abroad, service learning, curriculum development, faculty and student exchange, and educational conferences. UCL has 18 institutional partners who are unique in their own right. Some have provided full scholarships in chemistry, Clark Atlanta University, curriculum development through Georgia State University's early childhood education, social work curriculum through Savannah State University, and technology transfer and IT solutions through Georgia Tech. These are just a few notable examples. Already to date, ladies and gentlemen, 100 exchanges or more have taken place with our institutional partners. So ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. The first panel discussion will focus on the University of Liberia's e-learning policy, along with updates from our institutional partners, the opportunities they are facing and some of the challenges, and recommendations on the way forward. Dr. Cheryl Davenport Dozier, President Emeritus, Savannah State University, and a new UCL board member will be the moderator of the High Panel webinar. I will introduce her shortly. A second panel discussion will provide the University Consortium for Liberia scholars who have received scholarships from us to talk about their successes and challenges in this environment of the coronavirus pandemic. Dr. Saki Gulafali will be the moderator here. At this time, I would like to take the opportunity to introduce to you a very special guest from Monrovia, His Excellency George S.W. Patton Sr., Liberia's ambassador to the USA, to make special remarks. Ambassador Patton is a career diplomat with more than 2 decades of experience in the Liberian Foreign Service. He is now the big boss in Washington, D.C., who represents the president and the people of Liberia. Ambassador Patton, we welcome you to the webinar, and we look forward to your special remarks. I'd like to turn it over to you from Monrovia. Thank you so much, Ambassador Patton. Ambassador Patton, can you hear me? We've been having a few technical issues, so I'm hoping that he can join. And if not, then we will move on and bring him in when we can get him back on. Okay. In addition to that, we also received a notification from His Excellency Minister Soni, Minister of Education in Liberia, who expresses his regrets that he could not be with us today. But he does have a proxy, hopefully, who will join us sometime later in the webinar program. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Cheryl Davenport Dozier. She's an amazing partner of ours, an amazing leader in higher education. More than 30 years, she has expanded her career in higher ed. She is President Emeritus of Savannah State University, where she served for 8 years as the 13th and the first female permanent president of that university. Dr. Dozier was instrumental in enhancing Savannah State University's global mission, including 2 Fulbright Hayes educational programs in Ghana and the renewal or establishment of academic relationships at universities in Ghana, Cameroon, Liberia, Nigeria, Brazil, China, and India. She and her social work faculty established academic partnerships with the University of Liberia and AME University in the creation of social work as a new academic career. Under her leadership, they have sent textbooks and materials and supplies to Liberia during the post-Ebola crisis, and she has provided such great leadership. She is currently a professor of social work at Georgia State University, adjunct professor at Clark Atlanta University as well. She serves on many boards, and as I mentioned, she's a new member of the board of directors for the UCL, and she's also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, to name a few. And last but not least, she received an honorary doctorate degree from the University of Liberia a few years ago. Welcome to the webinar, Dr. Dozier. I'd like to turn it over to you, and many thanks for moderating the high panel discussion for today. Thank you.
Good morning. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you again, Cynthia, and the entire esteemed panel that we have with us today, but especially the students that you're going to hear from, because all of us as educators, we do this work so that our students will come after us and take the lead. And we have seen that happen through the University Consortium of Liberia, that students who have come from Liberia, I know both at the campus that I led, Savannah State, at Clark Atlanta, my alma mater, we have watched them receive their doctorate degrees, their master's degrees, and go into their professions, and some back to the academy, and many have returned home to the University of Liberia and other universities there to serve. So I am indeed glad to be with you today, and I want to move quickly because we have such an exciting panel and make sure that they all have the time that they need to share with you today. Our first panelist is speaking from Liberia. Reverend Dr. Julius S. Nelson Jr., the president of the University of Liberia. He was appointed in 2019, but Dr. Nelson has such an esteemed respect by his colleagues and his students, where he served at the University of Liberia as a professor. He chaired the Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies in Liberia College. And for more than 12 years, Dr. Nelson headed the Department of Student Affairs at the University of Liberia, serving as its vice president and dean. And I remember when I was there, how much the students loved and appreciated you, as I was able to bring to Savannah State the Queen, Miss University of Liberia came, Roberta Lynn Coley came with us. So I am so proud of the work that you have done. It is indeed an honor to have you here today to talk about how you are continuing to move the university a step forward. Liberia has had many challenges in providing education. So I remember arriving after the Civil War, pre-Ebola, being there post-Ebola, and the University of Liberia continues to move forward. So share with us today some of the real-time solutions and implementation of the new e-learning strategy at the University of Liberia, and address some of the challenges that the faculty and the students have faced in adapting to e-learning. And I must say, as a professor teaching virtually right now, it is challenging for us here. So no matter where our listeners are, I want them to know that we as faculty, students, as well as families are challenged with the virtual learning, but we will continue to move forward. So President Nelson.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Let me express our appreciation to Cynthia and her team for organizing this opportunity for we to share with each other. I want to recognize Dr. Dozier, our alumnus, for the work you have been doing and continue to do in our partnership in this enterprise. Let me also mention our ambassador, Honorable Patton, who is on our panelists, guests, faculty colleagues, our students who are on study leave, and all of you wonderful people. I want to bring you greetings of Shalom from the Board of Trustees, the administration, faculty, staff, and students of the University of Liberia. We are privileged since October last year to be given the opportunity to serve as the senior manager of the university team. And we are hopeful that as we look to the future, we will add on or stay on the foundation that we met from the other colleagues on whose shoulders I'm standing, Dr. Dennis and Dr. Weeks, to move the university forward. And so that we are grateful for this opportunity and the partnership with the University Consortium for Liberia. We were preparing ourselves for a transition to distant learning, but then the COVID-19 pandemic forced the university to move from a pilot process to institutionalizing e-learning at the University of Liberia. We had a shutdown in Liberia on March 17 when the first case was noticed in Liberia, and the government of Liberia made a decision to lock down in the country on all institutions, and we started thinking what we were going to do for teaching and learning to continue in the Republic of Liberia. We were invited by the National Commission on Higher Education, that is chaired by the Minister of Education, for institutions of higher learning to start the reflection as to what we were going to do in the midst of COVID-19 for teaching and learning for our students in the midst of what was happening. It was from that meeting we were all encouraged to think outside of the box and explore the possibilities for starting an e-learning or distant learning program at our various institutions. And the starting point in that discussion was to develop an e-learning policy strategic plan that needed approval of the National Commission on Higher Education, our Board of Trustees, before we could launch into a distant or e-learning semester. We put together a technical team led by our Vice President for Academic Affairs and our Vice President for Institutional ICT, who helped us greatly in developing our strategic plan for e-learning at the University of Liberia. And we began with a 3 to 4 months preparation period with our faculty members, most of whom were born before the computers and therefore had to go back to school to learn how to prepare ourselves. And so after 4 months of doing that and the approval of the National Commission on Higher Education and our Board of Trustees, we had a pilot e-learning semester that was in place for our second semester of academic 2019-2020. It was not easy. We had to coordinate very well with a technical firm to develop and link our platform to the module system to be used at the University of Liberia. And through all of that process, even up to now, it was difficult for our students, for our faculty members, and even those of us who are in administration. We started on July 28th of the e-learning semester, and we completed that semester on November 26th for that particular period, at least to bring to an end our academic 2019-2020 at the University of Liberia. But let me lift up a few challenges that we experienced during the particular period. One, data packages for students and for faculty members. Internet connectivity for faculty and students was a major challenge we had to deal with. There was a headache of commitment of faculty members to process their notes and all of that on the e-learning platform for students to intervene, and that became their problems. A lot of our students found it difficult to even register for the semester. Out of the 18,000 plus students, we managed to enroll 14,000 plus students. But even with that enrollment, there were still some difficulties concerning the data packages and the internet connectivity here in Monrovia to run a semester with students off campus, but in various parts of Monrovia and its suburbs was a major challenge. Electricity and internet connectivity at different sites in Monrovia was just out of bounds. And so that became a major exercise that we had to struggle with. Good for us, our law school stuck to a Zoom platform for the teaching of their students, but most of our undergraduate students and our faculty members experienced difficulty throughout the whole semester.
Thank you, President Nelson. And those challenges that you have been able to overcome are quite impressive. So at this time, you'll have an opportunity to come back to us, but I would like to now move to our president of Clark Atlanta University, Dr. George T. French, Jr. Since September 1st, 2019, President French has served as the 5th president of Clark Atlanta University. Prior to his unanimous election to serve at the helm of Clark Atlanta University, Dr. French served as president of Miles College from 2005 to 2019 and as a director of development there as well. He has an extensive resume of accomplishments. We congratulate Clark Atlanta University and the University Consortium of Liberia for almost a decade of collaborations. We commend the leadership and faculty of CAU for their support and critical role in supporting 2 University Consortium of Liberia PhD scholars and for ongoing faculty and student research and support. We are excited about the upcoming renewal of the longstanding MOU. An interesting fact, Dr. French, is that the renowned thought leader, W.E.B. Du Bois, who was on the faculty multiple times, as you know, at Atlanta University, visited Liberia in 1923. Wow, what a relationship that Clark Atlanta and the University in Liberia should have indeed. President French, your first and second year as president of this historic university has been impacted greatly by COVID-19's unprecedented effect on higher education globally, as well as specifically here in the state of Georgia in the United States of America. But specifically, It has impacted campus life and multiple technology challenges. I recall seeing your campus letter in April 2020, where you stated the university was ahead of the curve, moving to remote learning instruction for the remainder of 2020 semester. While this protective action was necessary, many students did not possess the required technology, examples of hardware, software, internet access to fully be able to participate in this new learning environment. Dr. French, will you please share with us some of the challenges and successes that you have experienced since March 2020 as you have transitioned Clark Atlanta University to virtual learning, and especially the impact on vulnerable students and faculty?
Thank you so much, Madam President. It's so good to see you. It's always great to see you, and congratulations on your distinguished career within higher education, and specifically for the impact that you made upon Savannah State University, and as you are now President Emeritus. So good to see you. Most certainly, we acknowledge the Honorable Cynthia Blanford. It's good to see you as well, ma'am. And we acknowledge the presence of Ambassador George Patton. When we saw Dr. Blanford at the Commerce Club, she assured me that we were going to continue our partnership, and she certainly followed through on her word. So thank you so much for following through, and we look forward to a long and prosperous relationship with you as president and board chair of the University Consortium for Liberia. I tell you, President Dozier, the history of which you spoke of Du Bois and being on faculty at our institution and then visiting Liberia, it was reminiscent to me of the very essence of the beginning and founding of Liberia. When I think about those free Blacks that were, many of them were freed, and they went, of course, to Liberia. Immigrated to Liberia. And I recall that the first African-American governor of Liberia, while we're still under colonization, our colleague, not only was he governor, but Mr. President, he went on, President Nelson, he went on to become the first president of Liberia and the president of the University of Liberia. So just to reflect upon the history and the continuity, and noting President Nelson, that this Joseph Jenkins Roberts actually came from Norfolk, Virginia, and immigrated to Liberia. So the relationships that have been existent for this long are only being strengthened now. President Dozier mentioned the Memorandum of Understanding. I signed the Memorandum of Understanding last evening, as a matter of fact. I wanted to note that it has been signed by me when we began this call. So we are excited. And President Nelson, I'm excited. I looked at you last night on YouTube. You were signing another Memorandum of Understanding with another institution. I think the gentleman was from Cameroon. And I said, well, that's what we'll have to do. We'll have to get together and make it formal with such a similar Zoom call. President Dozier, it's been since March, as you well know, it's been quite a challenge. The challenge of dealing with COVID-19, of migrating nearly 4,000 students from an on-ground to a virtual platform has had its challenges. Very quickly, the one challenge was the hardware, which is why we used funds to purchase 4,000 laptops. Now, I purchased laptops in my life before, President Nelson, but I've never gone to the store and said, I'll take 4,000. This time we were able to do that. We were able to provide hotspots for our students, laptops, groceries, travel expenses. We really attempted to meet all of the needs of the students. As importantly, the faculty were extremely engaged. They all took T-TEC training certification so that they will be prepared to migrate to that platform. Faculty have been extremely supportive of our efforts. They are excited about our continued relationship with the University of Liberia. And as you know, we have 2 scholars that are pursuing PhDs from the University of Liberia, and we look forward to expanding upon that number. So there have been some great challenges, President Dozier, but the successes are on the tongues of our students as they've enjoyed staying safe, making sure that their families were safe, and that they did not have to expose themselves. Finally, we made the decision based on data and science. President Dozier, when we looked at the fact that 97% of our students will be coming from the top 5 hotspots in the nation, it was just, to us, an easy decision to decide for the fall semester to be totally online. For the spring semester, again, being informed by data and science, it appears that we will come back with a limited cohort of students with only our freshman classes and our graduating seniors. So we'll bring no more than about 1,200 students back to campus this spring. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, President French. And I do want to also make it known, I don't know if everyone realized that it's not from here in the United States of America, that Clark Atlanta University, as the same will be for our other panelists from their universities, students come from all over the country and the globe. And one of the things I must commend President French is that there were students who had no way to get home. There were international students as well as local students from the US who could not get home because flights had stopped. And he found a way to house all of those students using funds and donations. And we really are thankful of how the community embraced Clark Atlanta and how you have been able to make sure that those students were safe. And I know my own sorority and others helped to make sure that they were fed. So we are just grateful for going that extra mile. And I know President Nelson had to do the same because of how large the country is, that he had students that were also stranded in Monrovia. So I know that both you will be able to share a little bit about how that worked and the contributions. I turn now to Dr. Susan Ogletree. And Dr. Susan Ogletree is the director of the Center for Evaluation and Research Services at the College of Education at Georgia State University, one of the largest urban universities from the state here in the state of Georgia. Congratulations to Georgia State University for its partnership with the University Consortium of Liberia for over a decade. I understand, Dr. Ogletree, that in 2019, Georgia State University, particularly you and your colleague, Dr. Gwen Benson, former Associate Dean for Faculty Development and Partnership at the College of Education and Human Development, and Dr. Julie Washington, a professor and chair in the Department of Communication Science and Disorders at Georgia State, made a site visit to Liberia for consultations with the University of Liberia, the Minister of Education, USAID, and others on how to strengthen early childhood education in Liberia. Please discuss that MOU with UL, and particularly why the passion and the need for developing that kind of relationship.
Well, I want to thank you, President Dozier, for chairing this committee and running this meeting. And Honorable Cynthia Blanford, thank you also for inviting me. First, I want to provide a little of the backstory. I had the pleasure of visiting the University of Liberia with the 2 colleagues, Dr. Gwendolyn Benson, Associate Dean of Partnerships, and Julie Washington, Chair of the Department of Speech Language Pathology in October 2019 at the invitation of the Honorary Consul General, Cynthia Blanford. Prior to the visit, we'd had a long-term relationship with Council Blanford. However, this was our first visit to Liberia. The 3 of us had worked extensively in South Africa around teaching reading, working with students with disabilities, and research methodology, while Dr. Benson and I had worked in Zambia over a 3-year period over a 3-year period in 2 rural communities around teacher education and community health. Our primary objective, even in our work in Atlanta, is to provide access to quality teachers for the most economically challenged students who are dedicated to cultivating genius in our students. When we visited the University of Liberia, we were incredibly impressed with the dedication of the faculty. While there were some young faces who were excited and ready to embrace technology at all levels, there were also many faculty who had been teaching for many years with little technology experience. We were able to meet with the president of the university at that time and to visit with individual faculty members while we were on campus. And our initial reason for visiting was in response to a meeting held on the GSU campus with the former president of the University of Liberia. At that time, we agreed to write a grant with a focus on early childhood education and reading acquisition. The grant was written and submitted to USAID prior to the Ebola crisis. Then, of course, Ebola hit, and we never received a response. When we visited Liberia in October 2019, we met with USAID to discuss a possible resubmission of the early childhood reading grant. At that time, we were also fortunate to meet with the U.S. ambassador, USAID representatives, and the Minister of Education. The resubmission of the grant aligned with a grant writing workshop for faculty members, which would include a discussion around possible external funding that we had agreed to provide. And we were hoping that our presentation would bring out maybe 10 to 15 faculty members on a good day that might be interested in grant writing. However, when it was time for the presentation, we had more than 35 in attendance with standing room only. And while the faculty was initially interested in grant writing around early childhood education, there was also interest in research methodology, special education and how to meet diverse learning needs, reading methodology for both children and adults. And the 3 of us committed to returning to the University of Liberia to teach collaboratively with faculty members, both short-term in person and through the internet virtually. The UL faculty were excited about the possibility, and we were incredibly excited about the possibility, and we are committed to doing that. The second part of our visit to the university was to tour the newly opened Child Development Center that was located on the campus of the university, servicing children of faculty, students, as well as from the community from ages 3 to 8. The classes were full of bright faces that were so excited to be in school. As we toured the facility, which was located in 8 former dorm rooms, young Liberian students were learning their alphabet, words, sentence structure, and we met with the head of the school, and she asked us if we would provide some professional development for the teachers to improve reading and math instruction. And of course, we agreed to help in any way. We are in the process of trying to get a donated library for the center and manipulatives for student use. And it was at this point we determined that we really needed to pursue an official relationship with the University of Liberia to include a memorandum of cooperation. And then COVID-19 hit. The memorandum of cooperation is in process with additional activities that includes exchange of faculty for the purpose of research, teaching, and the presentation of special courses in their fields of specialization, student exchange and study abroad programs, establishment of joint research programs, organization of conferences, seminars and symposia, and interest in grant writing to secure external funding to support collaborative activities. There's also the possibility of core courses that are jointly taught by faculty from both universities that need to be explored at this time. Doctors Benson, Washington, and I are excited about the possibility of securing a USAID grant, as well as longer-term teaching and research possibilities once COVID-19 has passed. We look forward to continuing the cultivation of genius in Liberian students, collaboratively with the University of Liberia faculty. And if you get a chance, please review the book, Cultivating Genius by Goldie Muhammad. It's an excellent equity framework. And if we don't believe in the genius of our students, no one else will. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. Thank you. And you're absolutely right. Cultivating the genius in our children. And I know my time that I spent in Liberia, those children are geniuses and they are survivors. And we just want to be able to help. And I'm so excited about the MOU that you have, since my first degree is early childhood education. And I know from my work in Head Start and working with families that this is so important. So today we also have with us Dr. Michael Best. And Dr. Michael Best is the professor at Sam Nunn School of International Affairs and the School of Interactive Computing at Georgia Tech University. The technology partnership with Liberia has been anchored by Dr. Best with Georgia State University. Dr. Best's work focuses on the roles of information and communication technologies and international development, especially in the continent of Africa and the continent of Asia. We want to congratulate Georgia Tech for 13 years relationship and a long-standing MOU with the University Consortium of Liberia. In 2015, I recall, Dr. Best, that an MOU was signed with Georgia Tech and the Republic of Liberia, particularly around communication technologies and development. Today, I ask you to begin by sharing some of the challenges and successes you have experienced in transitioning your department, as well as Georgia Tech, while it's a technology university, I know it's had its challenges as well, to virtual learning, especially from a design perspective. And what are some of the challenges of distance learning amid COVID-19 pandemic in countries like Liberia? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, President Dozier, and my respectful thanks in regards to the honorable host and honorable participants and the various presidents assembled here, the other distinguished speakers, including the students who I very much look forward to hearing from. And so with all those protocols observed, as I think about our relationship between Georgia Tech and Liberia, I think it really echoes in some regards the development of information and communication technologies within the country and the dynamism, the opportunities, and also, quite honestly, the challenges. Our work with tech in Liberia goes back really 15 years, I think, starting in about 2005, just a couple of years after the Accra Comprehensive Peace Agreement was signed. I began working at that time in collaboration with the Soros Foundation Network to develop the first national ICT assessment within the country of Liberia, collaborating with the government of Liberia, and then went on in 2006 to co-organize with the government the first national ICT workshop in Monrovia. In 2007, we then embarked on a multi-year series of world firsts in collaboration with Liberia's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, developing a video story sharing technology to support a healing dialogue and creating for the first time ever a secure online system that allowed Liberians to submit sworn sealed testimony to the Truth Commission via the internet. Never before done by any Truth Commission prior. We also began at that time a long-lived collaboration with relevant government stakeholders towards what became the 2010 Liberian National ICT and Telecommunications Policy. And we launched, working with Microsoft and with NGOs in Monrovia, a new computer training facility and ICT literacy program aimed primarily at skills upgradation amongst women, ex-combatants, and displaced people in Monrovia. In 2011, the ACE submarine fiber cable made landfall just there on the coastline of Monrovia, delivering for the first time to Liberia high bandwidth global internet. And we partnered with the World Bank then and the government of Liberia stakeholders to offer policy guidance, capacity development, and most critically, demand generation for the use of that high bandwidth capacity via the submarine fiber cable. Also around that time, we founded with Georgia Tech alum, the iLab, which maybe some of you in Monrovia have visited. It exists still to this day. It's a nonprofit computer laboratory providing access, expertise, and community, leveraging technology for the good of Liberia. And Georgia Tech, we've sent graduate students in the summer to the iLab to teach computer programming courses. And to this day, we continue this work with our partners in Liberia, including, I think, quite critically, the University of Liberia, on ways to connect digital technologies to national development. And I was struck, President Nelson, how you mentioned the need for out-of-the-box thinking around e-learning, given the realities both of COVID and of the infrastructure challenges in Liberia. I remember even going back to 2006, the out-of-the-box thinking that I witnessed at the University of Liberia around the development of ICT infrastructure and facilities. At that time, it was the development of a computer laboratory working with a partnership with a company called SocketWorks for a 150 PC, low-cost, high-performance, thin client computer lab, which at the time was quite innovative and really exciting, but no longer exists, I believe, on the UL campus. And this, to me, describes the kind of challenges of the contexts of e-learning in the Liberian context. On the one hand, enormous innovation and responding to opportunity. On the other hand, often issues of sustainability and capacitation. As noted by you, President Nelson, internet connectivity remains a major challenge within Liberia. And so let me end by saying that there will be no one-size-fits-all for students, I believe, in Liberia. Some students have better connectivities, some students have weak connectivity. Some students have access to laptops or desktops. Some students will have to come to their coursework or e-learning just via a feature phone. And this diversity is not well appreciated, I don't believe, by e-learning environments. And this is a design issue in my estimation. For instance, I sort of collaborated a little bit with Dr. Saki Golafal, who we'll hear from in the next panel. And I worked with him on exploring online chemistry lab environments for the University of Liberia. Saki is a chemist. He teaches here in Atlanta, but also with the University of Liberia. And the environments that he and I pointed me to and that I explored in collaboration with him function on high-end personal computers, not on smartphones or feature phones. Their design does not respond then to the diversity of the student population within the University of Liberia. And so I think I would leave it there, saying that proposes both a design challenge as well as I think, opportunity for mutual collaboration amongst us to both confront the infrastructure issues and these design issues. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bess. We are definitely excited to hear about the technology that you have been working on and some of the challenges that you've been able to overcome. So I know Dr. Nelson will have some comments to share. Our next scholar panelist that we have is Dr. Layli Mapayan. She is the Catherine Stone Kaufman 67, class of 67, Executive Director of the Wellesley Center for Women and Professor and Chair of Africana Studies at Wellesley College. I enjoyed reading your blog after your most recent trip to Liberia, entitled Seeing the Wealth in People, the Power of Youth in Liberia. And I believe that that is one of the areas that we are really talking about today, the power of the youth in Liberia. So today we welcome you, Dr. Mapayan, as part of the University Consortium of Liberia. Honorable Cynthia Blanford is so excited that you will soon be joining the board as well. And we're excited about the work that you are about to do. So today, if you will talk with us a little bit about your partnership with the University of Liberia's Honors College and its Gender Studies program, as well as your upcoming Fulbright Specialist Award, And I also ask that you share some of the challenges that women face in the higher education sector, particularly under these pandemic conditions, and how we should think about advancing gender equity, given the many things that women as faculty, students, or even higher ed administrators have to juggle. Dr. Mapayan?
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Dr. Dozier. I also want to extend my thanks again to the Honorable Cynthia Blandford, because if it weren't for her, I might never have made my first connection in Liberia. In fact, I came to Liberia for the first time in 2009 for the International Women's Colloquium as part of a delegation that was organized by Honorable Blandford. And it was on that occasion that I first visited the University of Liberia and had the opportunity to meet the then president, Dr. Emmett Dennis. And we had a conversation about gender studies. Because that was my area, I said, is there a gender studies department at the University of Liberia? And he said, no, not yet. Would you be interested in working on that? And I said, count me in. So that led to my applying for my first Fulbright Specialist Award to come and work with the University of Liberia to explore the idea of what gender studies could look like at University of Liberia, and also to do an initial feasibility study and put out some ideas about a model curriculum. I want to say a little bit about that study because I think that it informed what ultimately emerged and actually sets the stage for thinking about how we can continue to collaborate on my second Fulbright, which I'll say a few words about in a minute. The study that I conducted initially had several overlapping phases, including interviews with faculty members at UL and with university administrators, focus groups with students and student organizations, and conversations with numerous external stakeholders whose knowledge about gender, youth, or education dynamics in Liberia would be informative. In fact, I had the opportunity to meet and speak with many in the government of Liberia, including people at the Ministry of Gender and Development, people at the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Youth and Sports, as well as many multilateral and bilateral officials, such as from UNDP and USAID, and number of international NGOs and community-based organization leaders, including the Carter Center, CARE, and such local organizations as Traditional Women United for Peace, the West Point Women for Health and Development Organization, and Women and Children's Development Association of Liberia. I even had the opportunity to engage the general public on an UNMIL radio program. So the idea was to gather research broadly from numerous stakeholders to really explore this idea. I even gave a lecture about women's and gender studies across Africa because there are a number of other colleges and universities that have programs. And based on that information, presented a Gender Studies 101 class so that interested faculty and students could see what it might be like in a demonstration lecture format. Ultimately, what came out of that study was the goal to develop an African-centered, Liberian-specific, globally informed and rigorous gender studies model curriculum for the University of Liberia. So this is what I delivered to President Dennis at the end of my first engagement as a Fulbright specialist. So if we jump ahead to today, and now aided by two succeeding UL presidents, including President Ophelia Weeks, with whom I had the opportunity to meet, and now President Julius Nelson, and being introduced to the work of Dean Mamawa Freeman Moore of UL's new Honors College, the University of Liberia now has a gender studies program embedded in its Honors College, which launched in September 2019. And I was privileged to have the opportunity to review the inaugural gender studies curriculum and offer expert commentary in a letter to the Board of Trustees during the approval process for that curriculum. And subsequently, I was invited to pursue a second Fulbright Specialist Award to work with the program in new capacities, including curriculum development, faculty development, and some of the research components. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 travel restrictions, my Fulbright time period was delayed. Originally, I was supposed to go in April of this year, but obviously we weren't in a good place with COVID then. So I'm waiting for the State Department to release the travel ban so that I can get back over there. But the goals remain in terms of having a curriculum that meets those things. And on the global scene, this makes UL's curriculum very innovative and distinctive. And I'm excited about returning to be part of the ongoing development process, as well as to connect faculty, staff, and students across the water.
Thank you, Dr. Mapayan, and it sounds very, very exciting. And I hope I can be there when you're doing some of that work. So at this time, President French, I want to be able to give him an opportunity to also respond about the work that he is looking forward to and his vision for partnership with the University of Liberia and with President Nelson, and to share anything else you would like to share at this time, President French, and then I will turn it over to President Nelson to wrap up. He's heard lots of challenges and opportunities to work with all of the partners. President French?
Thank you so much, President Dozier. And I tell you, this is an exciting panel. Okay, I listened to each presenter, and the ideas for collaboration and cooperation, they were just flowing. I mean, I was over here taking notes. Dr. Best, you might have thought I was a chemistry professor at Georgia State. I was taking notes. I said, listen to this. I mean, the cables, and I know that's not the correct term, but to bring technology to the continent at that point was just so exciting to me. And I'm looking forward to collaboration, President Dozier, as between our faculty and staff. I'm looking forward to exchange programs, looking forward to expanding our footprint on the continent, specifically with the University of Liberia. How do we do that? I don't know all those answers. I was looking at about 7 bullets on the memorandum of understanding last night, and they were so expansive that they will allow us to touch many areas, not only the student exchanges, not only additional students seeking PhDs at Clark Atlanta University, but I want to make sure that we have opportunities to send Clark Atlanta University students to the University of Liberia as well. I was recently with Ambassador Andrew Young, and we were at the University of Johannesburg, and a lot of the focus was upon the students from the university coming to Clark Atlanta University. But my interest was sending students back to the continent to also work, which is the whole emphasis of this great Republic of Liberia and of the history of the institution. So I am open, and President Dozier, I will look forward to visiting the University of Liberia. I'm sure that Consul General Blanford will set up an opportunity for us to visit the University of Liberia, so we can talk about what are the most specific ways for us to collaborate based on Clark Atlanta University, our pedagogy and what we have to offer, and the University of Liberia. So I will come to the meeting not with any predisposed ideas of what we should do, but to ask the question, what can we do together and how can we make it work?
Great, thank you. I'm excited. It's so exciting. Dr. Nelson, you've heard all of this, and as the president of the University of Liberia, I think you have some partners ready to collaborate ongoingly with you. I turn the last words and the last thoughts about this topic over to you at this time. Unmute, sir. Unmute.
Thank you so much for that. Let me express gratitude to Dr. French, Dr. Ogletree, Dr. Bess, and Dr. Mapaya for all their sharing. The University of Liberia, we are ready, willing to expand our partnerships in all the different disciplines. I remember the different situation that was explained by Dr. Bess, the workshop on technology, the plan that was developed. I know people who participated in those times, and we are looking forward to even expanding now in the midst of our distant learning enterprise that we are moving towards. let me share with you that the University of Liberia have decided that we will have a blended learning university going forward. The traditional face-to-face and the online option, because we're not sure after COVID-19 what other epidemic we will have to encounter after COVID-19. And therefore, we are preparing ourselves to see how we can improve or learn from the challenges and mistakes we made in the pilot semester that we tried from July to November, and prepared ourselves for a future. We also made a decision that going forward, all our incoming students to the University of Liberia will be required to do 2 semesters of computer literacy classes as a precondition in going forward. We have established, or in the process of establishing, a undergraduate degree program in computer science and information management system that will help us guide that direction in preparing for where we go from there. And we believe that the partnership we are discussing with all of you will be helpful to see how best in our exchange of faculty and students will improve in this direction. We really want to look forward to additional engagement with Dr. Bess at this time, since we are launching into the deep for information technology here at the University of Liberia. Dr. Ogotri, let me share with you, we have gone far than the class when you met. We are moving the particular early childhood program to move into what's having a demonstration school for the whole university, part of our teachers' college. And your involvement with our College of Education that we just approved will be an added advantage for the long future development of the university. And I'm looking forward to receiving Dr. French in Liberia someday. Let me share with you that I've utilized the resources of Woodruff Library when I was a student at the Gammon Theological Seminary, ITC, from 1984 to 1987. And so that I know the community there. My graduation from Gammon was at the Mohorst College Auditorium. And so that I have a lineage to Atlanta, Georgia. And I believe that this partnership with the University Consortium of Liberia with the University of Liberia will be a major platform for how we work together as we go to the future. And we approved, Dr. Mapaya, just last week, a new curriculum for a bachelor's degree in gender studies. And we are looking forward to receiving you here in Monrovia to start what you started many years ago. And we believe that the University of Liberia, as the flagship university, connecting Liberia to the United States from the 1800s to now, find itself at a major threshold for all of you, our colleagues and friends, to join us in moving the University of Liberia to what my colleagues, former colleague, Dr. Wicks, called the top 20 in 7 years. We've been around in West Africa from the 1800s as the major institution of higher learning, and we believe that we need to be in the top 20 in 7 years. And these partnerships with Clark Atlanta, Georgia State, and Georgia Tech will involve what we can do at the University of Liberia, working with each of you to ensure that you work with us to move the University of Liberia forward into the future. And we will commit ourselves to making sure that the MOU and the Memorandum of Cooperation that we are signing with you will get its best result, involving our students, our staff, and our faculty in all the exchange program that will ensure the many years of the University Consortium in Liberia will reap its fruits at this time as we go to the future. And therefore, I'm committing ourselves in the management of the University of Liberia to all of you that we will work with you to ensure that all that we are doing and setting forward from today will go a new way to move the University of Liberia into the 21st century and launching into the deep. And so we are thinking outside the box. However, let me share with you that I do know that are running the institution of higher learning to depend on our government 100% is one of the challenges that we are dealing with. And so we are thinking about other ways and means to mobilize resources for the sustaining or sustainability of the programs at the University of Liberia. And if you have ideas or different reflection that you can share with us in that area of sustainable development of our institution, we will be happy to hear from you in those sharing as we continue our partnership. So Dr. Bess, Dr. Ogletree, Dr. French, you are all welcome to Liberia anytime, because we are already waiting to receive Dr. Mapaya in the not too distant future. And when I come to the US, I will be looking forward to visiting with each of you at your different institutions as we cement our partnership between the Republic of Liberia, the United States, but especially so your various institutions of higher learning. Thank you so much. And we appreciate our partnership that we want to engage in as we go to the future.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, President Nelson. And I do have to just say, President Nelson, I would love to invite especially our Clark Atlanta and Georgia State partners to join with the social work program that Savannah State was able to create. And the Clark Atlanta social work program, I know would really enjoy partnering. And I'm hoping that that program is doing well. But the student exchanges that we created can be multiplied with other partners in the field of social work. Dr. Nelson, you want to say a word about that?
Yeah, we are continuing. We had a first graduate at the last commencement, the centenary commencement program, and I'm even reviewing now that one of your graduates that you gave to us, Mr. Ronald Glee, will be coming back very soon to play an administrative leadership role in the social work department. And so we are looking forward to that experience. And we want to thank you for the energy and you share while you were at Savannah State for our student in that student exchange program that took Ms. UL and those other student leaders at Savannah State and the engagement they involved. They are all new beings after their experience at the Savannah State University some years back. And we want to appreciate you. And that is why we thought at the University of Liberia, honoring you to be one of our alumnus. As I look behind you, I see the seat of Liberia and your diplomat from the University of Liberia. Our partnership still continues, and we look forward to future interaction with you now that you are at Clark Atlanta University and even playing an adjunct professor role, who will stay continuing under the University Consortium of Liberia.
We definitely will. And President French, we're going to need to get Randolph Lee needs to get his PhD in social work, and Clark Atlanta has that PhD program. So you can have him back briefly, but we're going to have to bring him, let him get that full degree, that PhD. And I am proudly teaching in the PhD program at Clark Atlanta School of Social Work.
No problem. We would do that. We would do that.
So we could go on and on talking about the partnership. Yes, Dr. French,
can I just make one last note? Dr.
Yes.
President Nelson spoke of ITC and the commencement actually being held at Morehouse, but I would remind him that Gammon, his particular institution, came out of Atlanta University. So he also is one of our alums.
Yes, that's true.
We are all connected. Dr. Mapayan had lots more to talk about gender equity, but we are running out of time. And so for all of my esteemed panelists, you did a phenomenal job. And this is just the beginning. And we hope that our live audience is listening and tuned in. There's lots of work to be done, but Liberia is moving forward, pressing onward, and it is going to be a Class 1 university under the leadership of Dr. President Nelson. So we are excited about that and all of the partnerships that we will do with you. As soon as the plane allows us to take off and get there, we will be there to support you.
Welcome.
Yes, indeed. So at this time, I must turn it back to the Honorable Cynthia Blanford. Thank you for allowing us to go over our time a little bit, but this panel has been so engaging. But it's time to hear from our students and the reason why we do all of this great work. So Honorable Cynthia Blanford.
Where are you?
If she comes on, Cheryl, you did a great job. You did a great job. You're a great facilitator.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I learned that. You know, I'm an alum of Atlanta University, now Clark Atlanta University School of Social Work, where you find a way or make one.
Right.
Sure. We are excited. Dr. Blanford, are you on?
She
Well,
doesn't seem to be on. I wonder if we should go straight to Saki.
Okay, we may need to. I know I was to toss this back to her so that she would be able to introduce our next panel. So at this time, I'm going to give her one more opportunity. If not, Dr. Blanford, please unmute. I think you are talking. Someone has sent me, you're talking. Please unmute. Honorable Cynthia Blanford. She is going to be coming back to introduce to us Dr. Saki. Dr. Saki, I remember when he was doing his master's degree at Clark Atlanta University. He has gone on, and I have to again say thank you to President French, because he would not have this PhD if it wasn't for the resources and the scholarships that Clark Atlanta University provided. And we are just so proud of that scholarship. I will ask one time if Honorable Blanford, were you able to unmute? She's having some technology challenges, but we are going to move forward. So my young brother is now a professor at Kennesaw State University. And as you know, Brother Saki, I remember you when, and I am so proud of you. And we want to, and I know President Nelson is, and President French, we all take a little responsibility in seeing from whence you come and where you have gone. And there is so much in store for you to do. So not only is he teaching at Kennesaw State, he is also teaching at University of Liberia and assisting in the technology issues that are happening there. He is an active board member of the University Consortium of Liberia. And I'm going to turn the rest over to you so you could just briefly tell your story, Brother Saki, and then introduce your panelists. Greetings.
Thank you, Dr. Dozier. I'm so honored to be here this afternoon to speak to you, to moderate the second segment of Connect to Liberia Africa webinar series. It is an honor, and I must thank Honor Cynthia Blanford and the UCL board for giving me this opportunity to moderate this session and bring our students on the stage to have a conversation about their success stories as well as what they are doing in these difficult times. And I'm proud to say that I'm a graduate of the University of Liberia, where I also a faculty. I've been working with the faculty at the Science College and doing the e-learning transition process. I want to thank Dr. Nelson and the University of Liberia for affording me the opportunity to work remotely with the university in their transition. And we hope that this relationship will continue. And I'm so grateful to Clark Atlanta University family and Dr. French with the leadership at Clark. Had it not been for the excellent leadership, I would not have graduated in 2018 this year. Despite the COVID pandemic, the university administration was able to work hard to make sure that we got our diplomas and we graduated virtually. I want to thank you for your leadership, Dr. French. I'm so excited that we're having this kind of conversation. And I'm also currently an assistant professor of chemistry at Kennesaw State University. Of course, all of the leadership you people provided and mentorship would not have made this possible. I'm so grateful for that. So the relationship here with being with Clark Atlanta University and Liberia, it goes more than a decade. And I don't want to go into the details of all that before we take up time, but I'm grateful. And I'm going to be taking on this, moderating this segment with some UCL scholars, some very great, young people who have been in academia and research, who have been representing Liberia. And we're going to hear from them their success stories as well as what they've been doing during this difficult period. So I'm going to introduce and follow up with questions with our panelists, and they're going to tell us, listeners, and they're going to explore some of the challenges they've had and what they are doing currently to help our community in Liberia. So I'm going to start up this with introducing Ms. Asatu Wise, and I'm going to follow up with questions, and then we'll go around the table to the other panelists. So Ms. Asatu Wise is a Black feminist and a womanist, writer, intellectual. She's a PhD student at University of California, Santa Barbara, in the Department of Media Studies, where she worked, and she completed her master's degree at the University of Georgia, and she received a doctoral fellowship to study media, film, and media studies at the University of California, Santa Barbara. And she is a 2018 UCL Scholars for the Joseph N. Boakai General Studies Scholarship Award. And interestingly, the funding from that scholarship was used to conduct research at Schomburg Center for Research in New York. So interestingly, Ms. Wise has, she's an established, she has written some scholarly publications in peer-reviewed academic journals. Congratulations on that. I just read one of your papers in the Howard Journal of Communications and Black Camera. Her work has been published in other journals as well. So Ms. Wise, welcome to the Liberia Connect Africa webinar series.
Thank you so much, Saki. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Great. So let's go quick into our questions. The first question I have is, we're in a difficult period of COVID-19, and there are a lot of issues about how people are coping. And with your background, working with your background in feminism and black issues, I want to ask you, what news stories in a media outlet how is the media constructing stories about COVID and immigrant community? You want to share light on that?
Yes, I'm interested in the connection between the racial pandemic and COVID-19 and news coverage in the United States by major news outlets. One positive story is that the Washington Post reported that due to the Ebola epidemic, West African countries like Liberia and Senegal have the infrastructures and were prepared for this current pandemic. As a result, there haven't been widespread outbreaks in many West African countries. However, Liberian immigrants in the United States and other immigrants are concerned. And so, for instance, NBC News reported that Latino immigrants in particular have expressed distrust towards the medical community. They're fearful that they will be injected with the COVID virus, and many have expressed that if they seek treatment that they will be deported. And also, just as a Liberian American, I have heard stories in the Liberian community where Liberians have expressed similar concerns. And I think that it's important that we do not dismiss these concerns by immigrant groups. We have to consider the impacts, right? When immigrant communities hear from news outlets that French doctors are considering conducting COVID vaccination trials in Africa, stating that that is the ideal place to do so, or when immigrant communities hear that physicians in Georgia reportedly perform forced sterilizations on detained women. When immigrant communities hear stories like that, we have to understand that there will be an impact, that there will be distrust of our medical institutions. And I think there's an opportunity for Liberian Americans and other immigrant groups as journalists and scholars to follow up and share the impacts of this media coverage on our various communities. And I think that we have to remember that our medical community has an anti-Black history. For instance, when we think of the history of gynecology, It was built on performing forced procedures on enslaved women who did not have the right to say no. So given that history of anti-Blackness in our medical communities, it's important that we, Liberians and other immigrant groups, speak to our particular issues.
Great, Ms. Wisa, thank you. And talking about health issues and COVID, our next speaker will be Ms. Cynthia Bislow, who is our student of public health. And I just want to say, I'll come back to you, Ms. Wisa, as we go on the second segment of our questions. And then we'll also speak to Ms. Sophia Barry. And not forgetting, last but not the least, Mr. Joshua Kula, or Anthony Joshua Kula from Liberia. And coming to our second speaker, Ms. Cynthia Bislow, she's a 2018 UCL scholar. She's a public health student at University of Georgia and also an inspiring physician. She is interested in preventive care and public health research, and her public health research interest includes health literacy and global health. And of course, COVID-19 is a global issue right now we're talking about. Ms. Bislow, in her class, she's reading several literature reviews on the effect of limited health literacy on health outcomes in African-American populations and diabetic patients. And she was, in 2019, she participated in a medical mission trip to Angola, good, some connection to Africa. And I'm gonna ask the first question here, Ms. Bislow, on the issue of COVID. Briefly share, as a public health student, briefly share your perspective on COVID-19 and how has it impacted your learning so far?
Thank you, first of all, to the University Consortium for Liberia, and I'm so honored to be on this panel with all the leaders and educators and other students. So as a public health major, it has been very fascinating yet also disheartening to see the effects of the pandemic. As we all know, COVID-19 has resulted in worldwide infections, deaths, economic and societal consequences. In early March, as the world was learning about coronavirus, the media was saying that the emerging pandemic would be devastating to countries like Liberia. Yet I think they grossly underestimated the country. Liberia and other West African countries were prepared to face this pandemic because of the existing strong public health measures in place from the Ebola crisis. One of the measures was the force of community health workers who were involved in finding cases and contact tracing during the Ebola epidemic. And the Liberian government scaled up this workforce, hiring at least one community health worker for every rural and remote community to address COVID in Liberia. Liberia was also one of the first countries to begin screening incoming travelers for COVID-19 at the airport in January. In terms of the West has been heavily impacted by COVID, which I believe is due to the lack of travel restrictions, the lack of universal mask wearing, the availability of testing, and also the lack of adequate contact tracing. So in terms of just my education, my school has transferred to primarily a virtual learning format. And so COVID-19 has impacted my ability to attend in-person classes and also interact directly with my professors and engage in extracurricular activities as well.
Great perspective. And that's interesting. I'm going to speak to our next speaker will be Ms. Safiatou Barry, considering what Ms. Bislow just talked about, our virtual learning. Let me quickly, Ms. Barry, Ms. Safiatou Barry is currently working on her master's degree in mining engineering from South Dakota School of Mines. She is a graduate of the University of Liberia, Department of Mining Engineering, and she's also our 2018 UCL scholar. And interestingly, she runs a girls program that's called Give a Girl a Hand International. She's the executive director. We'll be talking about her experience on transitioning from Liberia to the US. If I can recall you, Ms. Barry, you were one of those many students who expressed interest in the University Consortium for Liberia Scholarship workshop that was held at the University of Liberia in 2018. with collaboration with the University of Liberia, our US Scholars Program. We had that program with over 200 students attending. And you're one of the students who we spoke to one-on-one, and then that year you were able to come to the US. Now you are at South Dakota School of Mines, pursuing your master's in mining engineering. How has it been being a UCL scholar, and then the issue of transitioning from traditional learning to online virtual learning? How's the experience been so far?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Golafali. It's an honor to be here. I want to say thank you to the UCL committee and all its members, and also a big thank you to the University of Liberia and its family. It has been an honor to actually partake in this program to share my experience. So I was one of the students that was part of the workshop when the UCL committee visited Liberia. And unfortunately, that day I was administering a test wherein I was helping in the department. So when I got back, I couldn't talk to Dr. Golafali and Madam Cynthia directly. But when I got their information, I was able to reach out to Madam Cynthia and also Dr. Golafali, and we were trying to set up a time to meet in Monrovia, and that same day, Dr. Golafali was leaving, and we couldn't meet in person. But after he gave me the rundown of the scholarship, first of all, I started researching what are the requirements and other necessary documentation that I needed. And one thing was that at which time I never had an admission yet, so my application, I didn't apply in the early time. And just few days to the expiration date of the application, I got my admission from the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. So immediately I sent in my application. But my relationship with UCL and that of Dr. Golafali has not just been applying for the scholarship, because I needed a lot of mentorship in terms of finding school in the United States. So Dr. Golafali have been very instrumental in mentoring me, like asking him a lot of questions, wherein he was able to provide necessary information to me. So in terms of the transition from traditional learning to that of e-learning, I must first say transitioning from one project or process to another is a bit challenging, but like usually I always say Liberian students, we are survivors in a way, most especially when you are a graduate from the University of Liberia. So during this pandemic, it has been challenging, most especially at the initial stage, wherein there were a lot of fear in the United States. And I must appreciate the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology University for their concern for international students during the pandemic. And the challenges I had and faced during the early stage of COVID was due to the fact that the campuses were closed down, everything was transferred online. Unlike students who were like doing some lab work, you have to visit the lab, that was a delay in the process. And also, you know, trying to run technical programs like models online, and wherein you would need a full assistance at times, it was very challenging. But as time goes by, accepting the uncertainty and, you know, going forward to see, yes, you can beat the odds. So it has actually been a great process wherein we have been able to adapt to the system, because my school was like partially online. Even before the COVID, we took some classes online. So going online was not that difficult. It was just like, if you want to go on campus to visit the lab and other things, that was challenging. And right now, I'm already working on my thesis, and hopefully will complete my master's degree in the spring semester of 2021. That is what I'm working on right now.
Congratulations in advance, and we wish you all the best from here. And you, Ms. Barry emphasized on, she talked about the issue of difficulty in doing labs during this COVID time. And I was listening to Dr. Michael Best when he mentioned our discussion on our approaching the issue of labs with the COVID pandemic. And we assessed a lot of technology challenges that Liberia faces right now, especially with low bandwidth and things like that. I just wanted to make emphasis on that. The issue of labs are important in the e-learning process, our transition. So we are still looking at ways in which we can conduct labs, though it is a very difficult thing to do labs online because it's more in-person experience, it's more an engaged learning process. But I won't hold you much. Our next speaker is Anthony Joshua Cooler. And Anthony Cooler is a UCL scholar and alumni of UCL. He's a legal research and organizational consultant based in Liberia, and he attended Atlanta John Marshall School of Law, and he graduated in 2018, moved back to Liberia in 2019, and he's now a part-time instructor at the United Methodist University and also the University of Liberia. And he's also our alumni board member of the Ashbury University in Kentucky. Interestingly, I am also a faculty at the University of Liberia. Looking forward to my return to Liberia to help Mr. Kula and I have been having a conversation on my return, I know, and we have to continue the conversation on how we can, even when we are distant, we can still contribute to Liberia. So Mr. Kula, I'm going to start with you completed your degree and immediately moved to Liberia. Share with us how has it been moving back to Liberia? As a Liberian, you got your degree in the US. What can you tell other Liberians who may want to go back, and what's the experience been like, considering the current pandemic and also the many socioeconomic challenges?
Yeah, I should first start by saying thank you for the opportunity, Saki and Ms. Bamford and the UCL. I was a UCL scholar myself, and I started university here in Liberia. I was a student at the University of Liberia, moved to Kentucky, did my undergrad at Asbury University. Then I moved to Atlanta and did law school, completed my Juris Doctorate in December 2018. And I moved back to Liberia January 2019 because everything about me connects my passion and my work. I want everything about me, giving my best years to Liberia. So moving back here, it's been an uphill challenge, but it's definitely been fulfilling. I moved to Liberia, took the bar, and I passed the bar, thankfully. So I'm a practicing attorney here in Liberia also. But most of my work in Liberia has been around young people initiatives, because I'm passionate about young people's leadership, capacity building, and development, and some gender advocacy as well, because I call myself a feminist. And so being in Liberia here, learning in Liberia and learning in the US, I've challenged myself to be a bridge to connect learning opportunities to young people who have similar interests. Also, I've been trying to incorporate new learning techniques in Liberia because we have limited resources here. So as the UL president said, it's been a challenge with thinking out of the box, because I also teach at UL, and teaching during the pandemic for me, moving online, because I teach political science senior level courses. So it's mostly students who are preparing to write their thesis or already writing their thesis and completing courses to graduate. So I found way for me as a lecturer myself, just with the classroom, I had to think of ways to tackle access to technology, access to internet, access to school materials. So I could do PDF of books, email it to students, and because social media, I use social media for my classes as well, because as the president said earlier, most students don't have access to a laptop. Most people use smartphones, as Saki said. So looking at all those challenges, I was able to work with social media using WhatsApp. So I use WhatsApp for my classes, as well as my email, as well as online learning platforms. Such for University of Liberia, we use Microsoft Teams. And access to the internet is expensive, and Microsoft Teams uses a lot of internet data. So we also use Google Meet because it's cheaper and easier to use. Almost everybody has a Google account. So I use Google Meet with their personal Google accounts to have classes. If we have to have a lecture section, if we just need to talk, assignments back and forth, students are more comfortable with texting. So I use the WhatsApp chat. We create specific group chats to have class discussions, and it's not limited to class times. So that's one way I was able to work with it for the classes I lecture. And a student participation it was a challenge initially because everybody was getting used to the idea. There's still learning curves, but students are more comfortable with texting. So that worked. And with WhatsApp, you could also send voice notes so we can have long conversations around several issues. And I can also send the PDFs in the WhatsApp chats, as well as the emails, as well as the model platform. So there are several ways to access the materials for my courses. And I had to do the extra work myself as a lecturer to be able to do that. Outside of the classroom because I volunteer with youth organizations. So doing that as well, we use social media for the most part to have discussions. That's how we've been able to tackle it.
Thank you, Adoni Joshua, and congratulations on passing the bar and contributing a lot to Liberia in the short time you've been. And one of the things I sense you made emphasis on a lot was access to resources for students, which is one of the challenges we've had. And thanks all of you for, we've ended the first segment of our questioning. We're going to the second. That's going to focus on more on your experience and what you're doing now, and how can you translate what you're doing into our service learning for Liberian students. What can they learn from you? What are some of the lessons learned so far? And what's your interest like as a UCL scholar in contributing to Liberia, especially with our student community or the community at large? So I'm going to start with this research. Give your perspective on what are you doing now in these difficult times that you think are more you are taking opportunity of the challenges right now. What are you doing? You're on mute.
As a PhD student, I am in an intermediary position in the sense that PhD students, we teach undergraduate courses, but we're also expected to conduct research and to publish articles. For me, the impact of the pandemic caused me to not be able to access my research sites. So my original dissertation was based upon Liberian cultural events in the United States. And the week that I was intended to fly to Washington, DC, the mayor shut down all events in the city. So I wasn't able to access that particular site or any of my other sites. And so in a matter of weeks, I had to reorganize my dissertation and write an entirely new prospectus. And so luckily, I had been accessing a digitized archive that centers on the American Colonization Society, which is the organization that founded or settled Liberia. And so I shifted my dissertation to focus solely on that digital archive. And I also shifted my sites to the Southeast, where I could drive back to one of my family members' homes and then drive to the sites, which enables me to circumvent flying. Because oftentimes when you fly, the various cities sort of track you and may institute quarantine, right? And so quarantine would increase cost for me. And so those are some considerations when attempting to complete a PhD, is being able to access your research sites and to access archives and libraries in this current pandemic. The UC Santa Barbara has been very understanding of PhD students' ability to access these sites. And so they have extended the time for us to take our comprehensive exams and defend our prospectus. And also, I think that the transition to online learning initially was difficult for we student TAs and for the students. I think that there were additional costs in acquiring equipment, reaching students, being able to accommodate students who did not have internet access or who didn't have stable housing. For instance, in California, there were wildfires, and so many students were displaced. And so those were a few of the precarious situations that were caused by the pandemic. So that is my story.
Great. And we show that your story can be also shared with students in Liberia that are having difficulties also accessing materials and doing their research and writings. And speaking about these challenges, but we're more about what are you doing now and how can that what you're doing now can be used to help students in Liberia or commit some time to community service and help Liberia as we in this kind of difficult period. Let me speak with Ms. Beslow on what are you currently doing considering the pandemic that you think you can continue working on in the future?
So currently in my public health classes, we're doing a lot of group work focusing on how individuals with limited levels of health literacy can access health resources. And that translates to Liberia as well, because often people with limited levels of health literacy have a harder time accessing health resources, and especially with the pandemic. Telehealth is a big thing now, and many people have to go to their doctor through virtual formats, and sometimes it can be difficult to access those things. And so we're doing a lot of research on how to make sure people have the laptops and the Wi-Fi access to access the services, and also that they know how to use the formats as well.
Great. And that's something where students in Liberia might be able to learn from. And let me speak to our Safia too, and we're gonna wind down with our Joshua Kula last. Ms. Barry, you run a girls program, and you want to briefly talk about what that is all about. What are you doing to keep that organization moving?
Yeah, thank you so much. So as Dr. Golafari mentioned, I'm the founder and executive director of Give the Girl a Hand International. So the group is actually an organization that focuses on women empowerment. So since the pandemic, we have been able to establish a Facebook Live platform wherein we do mentor a lot of international students, most especially Liberians, who are looking at advancing their studies, because when I came to the United States and looking at a lot of the opportunities that are here for students and seeing other nationals taking advantage of some of these opportunities, so my team and I decided to launch a mentorship program. So right now, every Saturday we do mentor students and we invite guests from other universities who are international students to also talk about the admission process, application process, how they can, engage faculty to get some funding, like being a TA, teaching assistant, and that of a research assistant. And also we run another program that is called the Giga Equity Hut. For that program, we identify issues that women face in the community and also provide solutions on those issues.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Barry. I think we've had a lot of great things that these young people are doing and in their communities and that of Liberia. That is the essence of having these kind of conversation, and also making sure that our scholars are connected so that we can know, the community can know what they're doing and how they can contribute to Liberia. It's been a privilege to moderate this session, and I want to thank all of our panelists, Mr. Joshua Kula, Ms. Sadia Bislow, and Ms. Asatu Wise and Ms. Afiatu Berry. It's been my pleasure. And now I would like to turn over to our host, Madam Blanford.
Thank you kindly. What an outstanding panel. If we could clap our hands, and many of us can, just what great leadership, creative, innovative, cultivating genius. You all are amazing, amazing young people. So I want to say thank you for the leadership, and thank you to Dr. Saki Gulafali for moderating this panel. Again, I'm sorry I missed the last half of the high panel, but I do also, if it can come online, so I can officially say an official thank you, and we're getting ready to close out. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think we also have Ambassador George Patton from Monrovia. Ambassador Patton, are you still with us? No, we've had some connection issues there, but he is with us in spirit and strength, and we have his full support, and hopefully we can get him on the next educational webinar. So again, thank you, Dr. Gulafali, for your leadership on this panel. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, panelists, and to the listening audience, as we begin our conclusion of the webinar today, we are pleased to announce a call to action. And we also want to have this takeaway. It's important not only to have conversations, but now what can you do to help? Right now, the University of Liberia is requesting support through iPads, iPhones, laptops, and educational materials and supplies. So by going to www.simplyliberia.com, and that's www.simply.liberia.com, you can purchase your holiday gifts, and where a portion of the proceeds of this particular transaction will be used to support the University Consortium for Liberia. Again, that is www.simplyliberia.com. We're so excited. If you would make those holiday purchases, we'd be happy to work with you if you have any issues to make sure that the UCL gets the kind of support they need to continue our scholarship program. Thank you again to our distinguished high-level panelists. You all did an amazing job. We're so excited with Dr. French at Clark Atlanta University. The MOU signing ceremony will be working with you to get that signed officially with all the fanfare, and Dr. Nelson. Dr. Cheryl Davenport is our moderator, and Dr. Saki Gulafali, what an outstanding job you all did. And to our planning committee, our UCL board members, our directors from the board, our sponsors, and all of you in our listening audience, we want to say thank you. Please stay tuned to future Connect Liberia series webinars, including access to Africa's 1.2 billion population and 2.5 trillion in economic output through the Africa Free Continental Free Trade Agreement. Please be on the lookout. We're so excited about our Africa webinar series. Thank you all so very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Have a wonderful holiday, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you in 2021. Thank you all very much for your time. Have a great holiday season. Thank you. God bless. Thank you.